entitled parents' brother lied about baby being mine, so I exposed him. I stared at my phone screen, reading the text from my cousin Sarah for the third time. Can't believe you got Emma pregnant and just abandoned her like that. Mom says you're not welcome at Christmas anymore. My hands were shaking. Emma? My brother's ex-girlfriend Emma? The one he'd been secretly hooking up with for months after they broke up. I immediately called Sarah back. What are you talking about? I never even. Don't lie to me, Marcus. Uncle Dave told everyone. Emma's baby is yours, and you just ran off to college like nothing happened. How could you do that to her? My blood turned to ice. Uncle Dave was my dad's brother, but more importantly, he was Emma's father. And apparently, someone had convinced him that I was responsible for his daughter's pregnancy. Sarah, I swear on Mom's grave, I have never touched Emma. Not once. Where is this coming from? There was a pause. Dylan told Uncle Dave everything. About how you two were secretly seeing each other, how you begged her not to tell anyone, and then when she got pregnant, you threatened to deny everything if she ever said it was yours. Dylan. My older brother Dylan. I felt like I was going to be sick. When did this conversation happen? Last week. Uncle Dave was furious. He went straight to Dad and Mom, and now the whole family knows. Dylan's been trying to defend you, saying you're just scared and young, but honestly Marcus, this is unforgivable. Dylan was defending me. Of course he was. The perfect older brother, trying to manage his irresponsible younger siblings' mistakes. Except these weren't my mistakes. I hung up and immediately tried calling Dylan. Straight to voicemail. I tried Emma next, also voicemail. My parents weren't picking up either. That's when I remembered seeing Dylan and Emma together at that party 3 months ago. They'd been in the corner talking intensely, and when they saw me, Emma had quickly walked away while Dylan acted like nothing happened. I thought it was weird, but Dylan always said they were just friends now, that their breakup had been mutual and drama-free. But Emma had been wearing a loose sweater that night. And Dylan had been acting strange for weeks, more secretive, always on his phone, making mysterious trips back home from his job in the city. The pieces were falling into place, and the picture they formed made me want to punch a wall. My phone rang. Mom. Marcus Anthony Richardson, you get home right now. We need to talk. Mom, I can explain. No more lies. Emma's father called us crying. That poor girl is 5 months pregnant and you won't even acknowledge your own child. How did we raise you to be so heartless? 5 months. I grabbed my calendar, counting backwards. 5 months ago, I was taking summer classes and working at the campus library. I barely left college town except for that one weekend when Dylan had specifically asked me not to come home because he was bringing someone special to meet the family. Someone special. Emma. Mom, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I have never been with Emma. Not once. And I can prove it. Dylan already told us you deny everything. That you made Emma promise to keep it secret because you didn't want to hurt the family's reputation. Of course he did. Mom, Dylan is lying to you. He's the father, not me. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then, how dare you try to throw your brother under the bus to save yourself? Dylan hasn't even spoken to Emma since they broke up over a year ago. That's not true. I saw them together at. Enough. Your father and I are driving up there tonight. We'll be at your dorm at 8, and you're coming home with us to face this like a man. The line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone, my mind racing. Dylan had thought this through completely. He'd painted himself as the loyal brother trying to cover for me, while simultaneously making sure our parents believed he'd had no contact with Emma since their breakup. It was brilliant in the most sick, twisted way possible. But why me? Why not just disappear, or claim he didn't know who the father was? Then it hit me. Our family's money. Dylan had been struggling financially since graduating, his marketing job barely covered his expenses, and he'd been asking Dad for loans constantly. But me? I was the baby of the family, the one they'd saved up for, the college fund they protected. If I got kicked out of school and cut off, that money would probably go right back to helping their responsible older son get back on his feet. I started making a list of everything I could remember. The party. Dylan's mysterious trips home. The weekend he told me not to visit. Emma's loose clothing that night. Dylan's sudden financial stress that seemed to ease up recently, probably because he knew he wouldn't be paying child support. My roommate Jake walked in as I was frantically writing notes. Dude, you look like you've seen a ghost. What's wrong? I explained everything. Jake listened, his expression growing more horrified by the minute. That's seriously messed up. But you can prove you weren't with her, right? Phone records, credit card statements, witnesses. I hope so. But Jake, my family is super religious. Even being accused of this, if I can't prove Dylan's lying, I'm done. They'll cut me off completely. No more college, no more family, nothing. Jake was quiet for a moment. What about Emma? She has to know you're not the father. That's what I don't understand. Why would she go along with this? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, we need to talk. Coffee shop on Main Street, 1 hour. Come alone. Emma. I showed Jake the message. This could be a trap, he warned. What if she's recording you to get more evidence? Or maybe she wants to tell me the truth. Either way, I have to go. My parents will be here in 4 hours, and this might be my only chance to understand what's really happening. I grabbed my keys, but Jake caught my arm. Marcus, what if Dylan threatened her or something? What if she's not doing this willingly? That possibility hadn't occurred to me, but it made sense. Emma had always seemed sweet, if a little naive. She was also from the same tight-knit religious community we were. Getting pregnant outside marriage was bad enough, but having everyone think she was sleeping with her boyfriend's younger brother while they were still together. That would destroy her reputation completely. I'll be careful, I promised Jake. But I need answers before my parents drag me home and force me to confess to something I didn't do. As I headed for the door, my phone rang again. Dylan. This time, I answered. Hey little brother, his voice was smooth, concerned. Mom told me she called you. I know this is scary, but running from your responsibilities isn't going to make this go away. The audacity was breathtaking. Dylan, I said, keeping my voice as steady as possible, we both know I'm not the father. There was a pause. Marcus, I get that you're scared, but denial isn't going to help Emma or the baby. Look, I've been trying to run interference with Mom and Dad, but Uncle Dave is talking about pressing charges for abandonment. You need to come home and work this out. Pressing charges. My stomach dropped. What kind of charges? Child support, maybe criminal abandonment. I don't know all the legal stuff, but Uncle Dave is furious. He trusted our family, and now he feels like we betrayed that trust. Dylan's voice carried just the right amount of concern and disappointment. I told him you're a good kid who just made a mistake, but Marcus, you have to step up now. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, I'll be home tonight. We'll sort this out then. Good. And Marcus? Emma's really struggling. Whatever happened between you two, she doesn't deserve to go through this alone. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, marveling at how perfectly Dylan had just played his role. The concerned older brother, advocating for the pregnant girl, disappointed in his sibling but still trying to help. He'd even managed to make me feel guilty about Emma's situation. I drove to the coffee shop with my mind spinning. What if Emma was planning to double down on the lie? What if Dylan had promised her something, or threatened her family's standing in the church? Our community was small enough that being branded as liars or troublemakers could affect her father's business, her younger sister's social life, everything. Emma was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a steaming mug. She looked exhausted, and definitely pregnant. When she saw me, her eyes immediately filled with tears. Marcus, I'm so sorry, she whispered as I sat down. So you admit I'm not the father? She nodded quickly, glancing around nervously. I never wanted any of this to happen. Dylan said, he said it would just be temporary, until he could figure things out. What exactly did he tell you? Emma took a shaky breath. He said your parents would disown him if they knew he got me pregnant, especially since everyone thinks we broke up over a year ago. He said they'd probably kick him out of the church too, and his job situation is already so bad. She wiped her eyes. But he said they'd forgive you eventually because you're younger and they've always been more lenient with you. The manipulation was even deeper than I'd thought. Emma, they're threatening to press criminal charges against me. This isn't just family disappointment we're talking about. Her face went pale. Criminal charges. Dylan said it would just be family drama for a few weeks until he could come clean gradually. When was the last time you actually talked to Dylan? 2 weeks ago. He said he needed some time to prepare our families, and that I should avoid talking to anyone until he sorted things out. She looked confused. I thought he would have told them the truth by now. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Your parents just pulled into the parking lot. They're heading up to your dorm now. I showed Emma the message. They're here early. Emma, I need you to come with me and tell them the truth. Right now. She shook her head frantically. I can't. My dad will kill me. He thinks I was with you behind Dylan's back, but if he finds out Dylan and I were still together this whole time, and that we lied to everyone. She started crying harder. My family will never forgive me. But you're willing to let me take the blame. Dylan promised he'd fix this. He said he just needed time to figure out how to tell everyone without destroying both our families. I felt a surge of anger. Emma, Dylan isn't going to fix this. He's been lying to you. While you've been hiding and staying quiet, he's been telling my family that I threatened you, that I'm refusing to acknowledge my own child. He's not preparing anyone for the truth, he's making sure the lie sticks. Emma stared at me in shock. He wouldn't do that. Dylan loves me. If Dylan loved you, you wouldn't be sitting here crying and terrified while carrying his baby. My phone rang. Mom again. Marcus, where are you? We're at your dorm and you're not here. I'm getting evidence to prove my innocence. Give me 1 hour. Evidence? What evidence? Marcus, stop this nonsense, Anne. I hung up and looked at Emma desperately. 1 hour. That's all I have before they drag me home and force me to confess to something I didn't do. Please. Emma stared at me for a long moment, then pulled out her phone with trembling hands. I'll call Dylan right now. I'll make him tell them the truth. She dialed his number. It went straight to voicemail, just like when I tried earlier. That's weird, she murmured, trying again. Same result. He always answers when I call. I felt a cold certainty settle in my stomach. Emma, I don't think Dylan's planning to come clean. Ever. You don't know him like I do. Then explain why he's not answering your calls right when everything's falling apart. Her face crumpled as the reality started sinking in. He said he loved me. He said once his job situation improved, we'd get married and tell everyone we got back together. My phone buzzed with another text from Jake. Your parents are asking everyone on your floor where you are. Your dad looks really angry. Also, some older guy just showed up, tall, dark hair, wearing a suit. Dylan. Of course he'd show up to play the supportive brother role in person. Emma, my brother just arrived at my dorm. He's probably up there right now, telling my parents how worried he is about me, how he's been trying to get me to do the right thing. I leaned forward urgently. This is your last chance. Once he spins this story in person, with you nowhere to be found, it's over. Emma's phone started ringing. She looked at the screen and her face went white. It's my dad. Don't answer it. I have to. If I don't, he'll just keep calling. She swiped to accept. Hi, Daddy. Even from across the table, I could hear Uncle Dave's voice booming through the speaker. Emma Rose, where are you? Dylan Richardson just told me that Marcus has been trying to contact you, and that you're scared to be alone with him. My blood turned to ice. Dylan was already 3 steps ahead, making sure that if Emma and I were seen together, it would look like I was harassing her. Daddy, I'm just at the coffee shop. Which coffee shop? I'm coming to get you right now. Dylan says Marcus has been sending you threatening messages about keeping quiet. Emma looked at me in shock. I grabbed my phone and quickly opened my text messages, showing her the screen. Look. The only messages between us are you asking me to meet you here an hour ago. That's it. She stared at the phone, then covered her mouthpiece. Dylan told my dad you've been texting me for weeks. What's going on over there? Uncle Dave's voice carried clearly. Emma, are you with him right now? Emma's eyes filled with panic. Daddy, no, I'm just. Stay exactly where you are. I'm calling the police. The line went dead. Emma looked at me with terror in her eyes. He's calling the police. Dylan told him you've been stalking me. I felt the walls closing in. Emma, please. You have to tell them the truth before. I can't, she sobbed. Don't you see? If I admit Dylan and I were together this whole time, everyone will know we lied about breaking up. My dad will think I'm some kind of slut who was sneaking around behind everyone's back. And Dylan. She shook her head frantically. His reputation will be ruined. He'll lose his job, get kicked out of the church. So you'd rather ruin my life instead? Dylan said it would be temporary. Emma, Dylan has been lying to you for months. He's not protecting anyone but himself. My phone rang. Jake again. Dude, you need to know, Dylan just told your parents that he's been worried about your obsession with Emma. He showed them some texts that he claimed were from you. Your mom started crying. What texts? I never sent any texts. I don't know, man, but whatever he showed them looked really bad. Your dad said something about getting a restraining order. I hung up and looked at Emma desperately. He's framing me. Dylan is actively framing me right now, and you're the only person who can stop this. Emma was sobbing into her hands. I don't know what to do. I love him, Marcus. We're supposed to get married. He's not going to marry you, Emma. If he was, why would he let everyone think you cheated on him with his brother? Before she could answer, I saw Uncle Dave's truck screech into the parking lot. Through the window, I could see his face twisted with rage as he scanned the coffee shop. He's here, I said quietly. Emma followed my gaze and let out a small whimper. Oh God. Uncle Dave burst through the door, his eyes immediately locking onto our table. The few other customers turned to stare as he strode over, his face red with fury. Get away from my daughter, he growled at me, his hand already reaching for his phone. I'm calling the police right now. Uncle Dave, please just listen to me for 30 seconds. I said get away from her. His voice boomed through the coffee shop, causing several customers to pull out their phones. Great. Now there would be witnesses to me harassing Emma in public. Emma stood up shakily. Daddy, please don't call the police. We were just talking. Talking? Uncle Dave's eyes were wild with protective fury. Dylan told me everything, sweetheart. How this boy has been threatening you, trying to convince you to lie about paternity. He pointed an accusing finger at me. You think you can manipulate my daughter into covering for you? I never threatened anyone. I stood up too, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Emma, tell him. Show him our text messages. There's literally one conversation. Don't you dare pressure her. Uncle Dave stepped between us. Emma, honey, you don't have to protect him anymore. Dylan explained how scared you've been. I felt like I was drowning. Every word I said was being twisted into evidence against me. What exactly did Dylan tell you? Uncle Dave's jaw clenched. That you've been sending my daughter messages for weeks, begging her to say the baby isn't yours. That you told her if she ever named you as the father, you'd claim she was lying and make sure everyone in town knew she was promiscuous. The word hit like a slap. I stared at Emma in disbelief. You know I never said that. You know I never sent you any messages before today. Emma's face was buried in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I can't do this. Emma. Uncle Dave's voice softened as he put his arm around his daughter. I know he scared you, but you're safe now. Tell me the truth, has Marcus been contacting you? This was it. This was the moment where everything would either collapse or start to make sense. I held my breath, watching Emma's face as she struggled with the decision that would determine my entire future. Daddy. She whispered, then looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. Marcus, he. My phone started ringing. I glanced down, it was my mom. I declined the call, but it immediately started ringing again. Answer it, Uncle Dave commanded. Let's hear what lies you're telling your parents. I reluctantly answered, putting it on speaker. Mom. Marcus Anthony Richardson, where are you? Mom's voice was high and strained. Dylan showed us the messages you sent Emma. How could you threaten that poor girl? What messages? I practically shouted. I never sent Emma any messages. Mom, Dylan is lying to you. We have screenshots, Marcus. Dylan has been trying to protect you, but he finally had to show us when Emma's father got involved. There was a pause, then Dad's voice came on the line. Son, we're driving to wherever you are right now. Dylan's going to help us find you. Dylan's with you. He's been worried sick about you. He says this obsession with Emma has been building for months. I looked at Emma desperately. She was staring at the phone with growing horror, finally seeming to understand the scope of Dylan's manipulation. Mom, Dad, Emma is right here with me. Ask her yourself if I've been threatening her. Uncle Dave grabbed the phone from my hand. Dave Richardson. This is Dave Martinez. I've got both of them here at Miller's Coffee on Main Street. You need to get here now, and bring those screenshots. This ends today. We're 15 minutes out, Dad's voice crackled through the speaker. Don't let him leave. Uncle Dave hung up and looked at me with disgust. 15 minutes, boy. Then we're settling this once and for all. I turned to Emma one last time. 15 minutes to tell the truth. After that, Dylan wins everything. Emma looked between me and her father, tears streaming down her face. I need to call Dylan. I need to ask him about the messages. She dialed his number again. This time, it rang. Dylan. Emma's voice was shaky as the call connected. We need to talk. My dad and Marcus are here, and they're saying you told people that Marcus has been threatening me. I could hear Dylan's voice through the speaker, smooth and concerned. Emma, honey, are you okay? Where are you exactly? Miller's coffee shop. Dylan, Marcus is saying he never sent me any threatening messages, but my dad says you have screenshots. Emma, listen to me very carefully. Dylan's voice took on an urgent tone. Marcus is desperate right now. He's probably telling you all kinds of lies to try to get you to cover for him. I know this is confusing, but you have to trust me. But Dylan, I don't remember getting those messages. Sweetheart, you showed them to me yourself. Remember? You were crying, saying you were scared of what Marcus might do if you told the truth about the baby. Dylan's voice was patient, like he was talking to a confused child. You've been under so much stress that I think you're blocking out some of the traumatic stuff. I watched Emma's face crumple with confusion and doubt. The manipulation was masterful. Dylan was making her question her own memory. I don't remember showing you any messages, she whispered. Emma, the pregnancy has been really hard on you mentally. Dr. Peterson even said that memory issues are common with the stress you've been under. Dylan paused. Baby, I'm worried Marcus might be manipulating you right now. Can you get somewhere safe? Uncle Dave stepped closer to the phone. Dylan, this is Dave Martinez. What exactly did Emma show you? Mr. Martinez, I'm so sorry you have to deal with this. Emma came to me 3 weeks ago with screenshots of messages from Marcus. He was telling her that if she ever named him as the father, he'd make sure everyone knew she was, well, that she'd been with multiple guys. He said no one would believe her over him. That's a lie. I burst out. Emma, check your phone right now. Look at our message history. The only conversation we have is from today when you asked me to meet you here. Emma fumbled with her phone, scrolling through her messages. Her brow furrowed. There's nothing here from Marcus except today's message. Emma, you deleted them, remember? Dylan's voice remained patient. You were so upset after showing them to me that you said you couldn't stand to look at them anymore. You deleted the whole conversation thread. I don't remember deleting anything, Emma said weakly. Uncle Dave took the phone. Dylan, can you send me those screenshots right now? Of course, Mr. Martinez. I'll send them immediately. I kept copies because I thought you might need them if this escalated. There was a pause. Look, I know this is hard to accept. Marcus is my little brother, and I've been hoping he'd do the right thing without having to involve the whole family, but I can't let him keep terrorizing Emma. My phone buzzed. Jake was texting, dude, something weird is happening here. Your brother is showing your parents' messages on his phone, but when your dad asked to forward them to his email, Dylan said there was a technical issue with his phone. Your mom is getting suspicious. I showed the message to Emma. Look at this. Dylan won't send the screenshots to my parents either. There's always some excuse. Uncle Dave's phone chimed with an incoming message. He opened it, his face darkening as he read. Well, here they are. He turned the screen toward me. Explain this. I stared at the screenshots in horror. They showed a conversation between Emma and someone saved in her contacts as Marcus are messages that were vile, threatening, exactly what Dylan had described. The timestamps went back weeks. Those are fake, I said desperately. Emma, those aren't from my number. Look at the number in the screenshots and compare it to my actual contact in your phone. Emma took her dad's phone with trembling hands, then looked at her own. Her face went white. The numbers, they're different. Uncle Dave grabbed both phones, comparing them. His expression shifted from anger to confusion. The number in these screenshots isn't Marcus's number. Dylan created a fake number to send those messages, I said quickly. There are apps that let you spoof phone numbers, make it look like messages came from someone else. Emma was staring at the fake messages, her face pale with horror. These things, no one would ever say things this horrible to me. How could anyone think Marcus would write this? She looked up at her father. Daddy, Marcus has never been anything but nice to me. Even when Dylan and I were dating, Marcus was always respectful. Uncle Dave was quiet for a long moment, looking back and forth between the phone numbers. Dylan. You still there? Yes, sir, I'm here. What's going on? The phone number in these screenshots doesn't match Marcus's actual number. There was a long pause. That can't be right. Let me check. Oh. Dylan's voice carried just the right note of confused realization. Mr. Martinez, I think I know what happened. Marcus has been using a different phone to contact Emma. Probably a burner phone or something, so there wouldn't be a trail back to his main number. That's insane. I shouted. Why would I buy a whole separate phone just to send threatening messages? That makes no sense. Because you were planning to deny everything from the beginning, Dylan replied smoothly. You've been covering your tracks for months. My parents' car pulled into the parking lot. Through the window, I could see Mom and Dad getting out, both looking grim and determined. They're here, I said quietly. Emma looked at me with growing clarity in her eyes. Marcus, I'm starting to remember some things Dylan said that didn't make sense at the time. About you, about our family, about keeping secrets. She turned to her father. Daddy, I think Dylan has been lying to all of us. Emma, no, Dylan's voice came through the speaker, more urgent now. You're confused and scared. Marcus is manipulating you right now. Emma hung up the phone. I want to talk to your parents, she said to me. I want to tell them everything, the real everything. Uncle Dave put his hand on his daughter's shoulder. Are you sure, honey? Once we open this door, there's no going back. Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. I should have told the truth from the beginning. I was just so scared of disappointing everyone. My parents walked through the coffee shop door, their faces set with grim determination. Behind them, looking concerned and supportive, was Dylan. The moment of truth had arrived, and I had no idea which way it would go. The four of them approached our table like a tribunal. Mom's eyes were red from crying, Dad looked like he was barely containing his rage, and Dylan looked like the perfect concerned older brother, his face etched with worry and disappointment. Marcus, Mom said, her voice trembling, we need to go home right now and figure out how to fix this mess you've created. Before we go anywhere, I said, standing up, Emma has something to tell you. Dylan's eyes flicked to Emma, and for just a split second, I saw something that wasn't brotherly concern. It was panic. Emma, Dylan said gently, moving closer to her, you don't have to put yourself through this. I know Marcus is probably promising you things, trying to get you to change your story, but... Stop. Emma's voice was quiet but firm. She looked up at my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Richardson, I need to tell you the truth about everything. Dylan stepped forward quickly. Emma's been under enormous stress. The pregnancy has been affecting her memory and judgment. Maybe we should discuss this privately first. No more private discussions, Emma interrupted, her voice growing stronger. I'm tired of secrets and lies. She took a deep breath. Dylan is the father of my baby. We never really broke up. We've been together this entire time. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's face went through a series of expressions, confusion, disbelief, and slowly dawning horror. That's impossible, Dad said flatly. Dylan told us he hasn't spoken to Emma since they broke up over a year ago. Dad, Dylan said, his voice perfectly calibrated with hurt and confusion, Emma's obviously been coached. Look at her, she's terrified of Marcus. She'll say anything right now to make this stop. I'm not terrified of Marcus. Emma snapped, surprising everyone with her sudden fierceness. I'm terrified of you. I'm terrified of what you've done to this family, what you've done to me. Uncle Dave put his arm around his daughter protectively. Emma, are you absolutely certain about what you're saying? Yes, Daddy. Dylan and I have been meeting secretly for months. He said his parents wouldn't approve of us getting back together because they thought I was too immature for him. He said we had to wait until he was more financially stable before we could tell anyone. I watched Dylan's face carefully. He was good, really good, but I caught the micro-expression of fury that flashed across his features before he composed himself again. This is heartbreaking, Dylan said, shaking his head sadly. Emma, I understand you're trying to protect Marcus, but lying isn't going to help anyone. You know I've been nothing but supportive of you during this difficult time. Supportive? Emma's voice rose. You told me to disappear. You said I should stay away from family gatherings until you figured things out. When was the last time you even asked how I was feeling, or if I needed anything for the baby? Dylan opened his mouth to respond, but Emma wasn't finished. And those text messages you showed my dad, Marcus never sent me anything like that. But you know what messages I do have? She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. I have messages from you, Dylan. Weeks of them, telling me to stay quiet, to trust you, to avoid talking to anyone in the family. She started scrolling through her phone. Here's one from 2 weeks ago, remember what we talked about. Just a little longer and everything will work out. And here's another one, I know this is hard, but you have to trust me. My family will understand eventually. Mom sank into an empty chair, her face pale. Dylan. What is she talking about? Dylan looked around at all of us, his perfect mask finally starting to crack. This is insane. She's obviously fabricated those messages somehow. Maybe Marcus helped her. Dylan. Dad's voice cut through the coffee shop like a blade. Show me your phone. Right now. Dad, this is ridiculous. Show me your phone, or I'm calling the police myself to sort this whole thing out. Dylan's hand moved instinctively to his pocket, then stopped. For the first time since this nightmare began, he looked genuinely cornered. My phone battery died on the drive over. I left the charger at home. Uncle Dave pulled out his own phone. Then let's call your number right now. If Emma's telling the truth about you two being in contact, your phone should ring. The trap was closing, and Dylan knew it. I watched Dylan's face as Uncle Dave started dialing. For the first time in this entire nightmare, my brother looked genuinely panicked. Wait, Dylan said quickly, holding up his hand. Look, I can explain everything. Mom's head snapped up from where she'd been sitting in stunned silence. Explain what, exactly? Dylan ran his hand through his hair, his composure finally cracking. It's not what you think. Yes, Emma and I have been in contact, but only because I've been trying to help her through this pregnancy. As a friend. As someone who cares about her well-being. Then why did you tell us you hadn't spoken to her in over a year? Dad's voice was dangerously quiet. Because I knew you'd misunderstand. I knew you'd think there was something inappropriate going on when I was just trying to be supportive during her relationship with Marcus. Emma stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Stop lying. There was no relationship with Marcus. You know that because you're the one who, she suddenly doubled over, gasping. Emma. Uncle Dave caught her arm. What's wrong? She was breathing heavily, one hand on her stomach. I think the stress is affecting the baby. I need to sit down. Uncle Dave helped her back into her chair, shooting venomous looks at both Dylan and me. This ends right now. I'm taking my daughter to the hospital, and then we're getting a paternity test done immediately. No more games, no more lies. A paternity test. Dylan's voice cracked slightly. Don't you think that's a bit extreme? I mean, Marcus has already admitted. I've never admitted anything. I exploded. Because I didn't do anything. Enough. Dad's voice boomed through the coffee shop, causing other patrons to stare. He pointed at Dylan. You. Car. Now. We're going home and you're going to explain every single lie you've told this family. Dylan's eyes darted between all of us, like a cornered animal looking for an escape route. Dad, I think everyone's overreacting. Maybe we should all take some time to cool down before. The only thing I want to cool down is my urge to throttle you right here in public, Dad growled. Because I'm starting to piece together what's really been happening, and if I'm right. He shook his head in disgust. Mom finally spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. Dylan, please just tell me the truth. Are you the father? The silence stretched for what felt like forever. Dylan looked at Mom's tear-streaked face, at Dad's barely contained rage, at Emma's exhausted form, and finally at me. For just a moment, I saw something that might have been guilt flicker across his features. Then his expression hardened again. You're all making a huge mistake. Marcus has obviously convinced Emma to change her story, probably promised her money from his college fund or something. This is exactly the kind of manipulation I was trying to protect her from. Emma let out a bitter laugh. Money? Dylan, you're the one who's been talking about money for months. About how your parents would cut you off if they found out about us, about how you couldn't afford to support a baby right now, about how much easier it would be if everyone thought it was Marcus because he's the responsible one with the college savings. Mom's face went ashen. He said what? He said Marcus was the golden child who could do no wrong, and that even if Marcus screwed up, you'd forgive him eventually because he's younger. But if you found out Dylan had gotten me pregnant and lied about it. Emma's voice trailed off as she looked at Dylan with growing disgust. You calculated this. You actually sat there and calculated which one of us would be easier for you to sacrifice. Dylan was shaking his head frantically. Emma, that's not, you're twisting what I said. You're confused and scared, Anne. I'm not confused anymore, Emma said firmly. I'm done protecting you. She pulled out her phone again. You want proof? I'll give you proof. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. I'm sending screenshots of our real conversations to everyone right now. Every message where you told me to stay quiet, every time you promised you'd fix this without actually doing anything, every lie you've been telling for months. Dylan lunged forward, trying to grab her phone. Emma, don't. Uncle Dave stepped between them, his face murderous. Don't you dare touch my daughter. My phone buzzed with incoming messages. So did Mom's, Dad's, and Uncle Dave's. We all looked down at our screens simultaneously, reading through months of conversations between Dylan and Emma that painted a very different picture than the one Dylan had been selling. The evidence was damning. And Dylan knew it. The screenshots were devastating. Message after message of Dylan manipulating Emma, promising her he'd tell our parents, when the time was right, coaching her on what to say if anyone asked questions. But the worst one was from just last week. Don't worry about Marcus. He's stronger than he looks, and Mom and Dad will make sure he's okay eventually. This is just temporary. Temporary, Dad read aloud, his voice shaking with rage. You were planning to let your brother take the fall permanently, weren't you? Dylan's face had gone completely white. Dad, you don't understand the context. Then explain it. Mom's voice was ice cold. Explain how any context makes this okay. But before Dylan could respond, Emma gasped again, this time doubling over completely. Something's wrong, she whispered, her face contorting in pain. The baby. Uncle Dave was immediately at her side. We're going to the hospital right now. He looked up at the rest of us. This conversation isn't over, but my daughter and grandchild come first. As Uncle Dave helped Emma toward the door, she turned back to look at Dylan one last time. I trusted you, she said, tears streaming down her face. I loved you, and I trusted you to protect me. Instead, you threw me to the wolves to save yourself. Dylan started to follow them. Emma, please, let me explain. Stay away from my family, Uncle Dave snarled. If I see you anywhere near Emma or the baby, I'm calling the police. And this time, it won't be to arrest the wrong brother. They left, and the coffee shop fell silent except for the whispered conversations of other customers who'd witnessed the entire meltdown. I realized people had been recording parts of it on their phones. By tonight, half our small town would know something explosive had happened between the Richardson and Martinez families. Mom was staring at her phone, scrolling through more of Emma's screenshots. Dylan, these messages, they're sociopathic. You were playing with all of our lives like it was some kind of game. It wasn't like that, Dylan said desperately. I was trying to protect everyone. I knew if Dad found out I'd been lying about Emma and me being broken up, he'd think I was irresponsible. So you decided to make us think Marcus was irresponsible instead. Dad's voice was deadly quiet. You were willing to destroy your brother's life to cover your own mistakes. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I thought I could figure out a solution before anyone got hurt. Before anyone got hurt. I finally found my voice. Dylan, I almost got arrested tonight. Uncle Dave was ready to press charges. My college career, my relationship with our family, everything was about to be destroyed because of your lies. Mom suddenly stood up, her chair clattering backward. The fake text messages. Dylan, did you create those fake screenshots you showed us? Dylan's silence was answer enough. You fabricated evidence, Dad said slowly, like he couldn't believe the words coming out of his mouth. You created fake text messages to frame your own brother for harassment and child abandonment. I panicked, okay. When Uncle Dave said he was calling the police, I thought if I could just buy some more time. Time for what? Mom screamed, causing everyone in the coffee shop to turn and stare. Time to send Marcus to jail. Time to let Emma raise your child alone while everyone in town thinks she's a liar. My phone rang. It was Jake. Marcus, where are you? There are cops here asking about you. Something about harassment and threatening messages. The blood drained from my face. What? Campus police. They said someone filed a report about you stalking a pregnant girl. Jake's voice was worried. Dude, they have a warrant. I looked at Dylan in horror. You didn't just lie to our family. You actually filed a police report. Dylan's face crumpled. I thought if there was official documentation, no one would question the story. I never thought it would actually. Dad grabbed Dylan by the shirt, something I'd never seen him do before. You filed a false police report against your own brother. I was going to withdraw it once everything settled down. Everything was never going to settle down. I shouted. Don't you see? Every lie led to a bigger lie, and now there are actual criminal charges involved. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Marcus Richardson. This is Officer Stevens with Campus Police. We need you to come in for questioning regarding charges of harassment and stalking. Can you tell me your current location? I looked around the coffee shop at my devastated parents, at my brother who had systematically destroyed our family with his lies, at the curious faces of strangers recording our breakdown. I need a lawyer, I said into the phone. That's your right, son. But we're going to need you to come in tonight. As I hung up, I realized Dylan's web of lies had become something none of us could control anymore. The police were involved, Emma was at the hospital, and our family was shattered. And somehow, despite Emma's confession, I was still the one about to be arrested. I stared at my phone after hanging up with Officer Stevens, my hands shaking. They want me to come in for questioning. Tonight. Dad released his grip on Dylan's shirt, but his face remained twisted with rage. This is what happens when you lie to the police, Dylan. You can't just take it back when things get out of hand. I can fix this, Dylan said frantically. I'll call them right now and explain everything. I'll tell them I made a mistake. A mistake. Mom's voice was shrill with disbelief. You filed a false police report. That's a felony, Dylan. My phone buzzed with another call from Jake. Marcus, it's getting worse. They're searching your room. They have some kind of evidence bag, and they're asking your neighbors if they've ever seen you acting strangely toward girls. The reality hit me like a physical blow. Even with Emma's confession, even with the screenshots proving Dylan's manipulation, I was still going to be arrested. Because somewhere in the system, there were official documents with my name on them, fake evidence that Dylan had created, reports that painted me as a dangerous stalker. Dad, what do I do? I asked desperately. Even if Dylan tells them the truth now, they're going to say he's just trying to protect me. It'll look like our whole family is covering for me. Dad was already pulling out his phone. I'm calling Bill Morrison. If we're lucky, he can meet us at the police station. Bill Morrison was our family lawyer, but he mostly handled business contracts and real estate. I doubted he'd ever dealt with criminal charges before. Wait, Dylan said, grabbing Dad's arm. What if I don't have to admit to filing a false report? What if I just say I was mistaken about who told me what? The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the coffee machine hissing behind the counter. Are you seriously suggesting we help you cover up another crime? Mom asked in a whisper. It's not covering up, it's just being strategic about how we handle this. No. The word came out of my mouth with more force than I'd ever used with Dylan before. I'm not letting you drag this family down any further with your lies. Dylan's face flushed red. Marcus, think about this rationally. If I get arrested for filing a false report, that's a felony on my record. I'll lose my job, I'll never be able to get another decent position. Is that really what you want? To destroy your own brother's life? Like you tried to destroy mine. I was going to fix it. When? I shouted. When exactly were you going to fix it? After I got expelled from college? After I went to jail? After Emma had your baby and everyone still thought it was mine? Dad stepped between us. Both of you stop. Right now. He looked at Dylan with disgust. There's only one way to handle this, and that's with complete honesty. You're going to call the police, you're going to admit you filed a false report, and you're going to take full responsibility for what you've done. Dad, please. I'm not finished. Dad's voice cut through Dylan's pleading. Then you're going to contact Emma's father and apologize. You're going to figure out how to support your child financially. And you're going to pray that Marcus and Emma don't decide to press charges against you for what you've put them through. My phone rang again. Officer Stevens. Mr. Richardson, we need that location. If you don't come in voluntarily, we're going to have to issue a warrant for your arrest. I'm coming, I said. But I'm bringing a lawyer. That's your right. The station is at. I know where it is. As I hung up, I looked around at my destroyed family. Mom was crying silently, Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour, and Dylan was staring at his phone like it might somehow provide an escape from the consequences of his actions. I have to go, I said quietly. Before this gets any worse. We're all going, Dad said firmly. This family is going to face this together. Dylan looked up hopefully. Dad, does that mean? It means we're going to make sure Marcus doesn't pay for your crimes, Dad said coldly. Don't mistake that for forgiveness. As we walked toward the door, I realized that no matter how this ended, our family would never be the same. Dylan had broken something fundamental between us, something that might never heal. But at least now, finally, everyone knew the truth. The police station parking lot felt like a gauntlet. Dad had called ahead, and somehow Bill Morrison had agreed to meet us there despite the late hour. As we walked toward the entrance, I noticed Dylan lagging behind, his face pale in the fluorescent lighting. I can't do this, he whispered suddenly, stopping dead in his tracks. Mom turned around, her eyes still red from crying. What do you mean you can't do this? If I admit to filing a false report, they'll arrest me tonight. I'll lose everything, my job, my apartment, any chance of getting hired anywhere decent ever again. Dylan's voice was shaking. There has to be another way. Dad's jaw clenched. The only other way is letting your innocent brother get arrested for crimes you committed. But what if we let the lawyers handle it? Maybe they can make this go away without anyone having to admit to anything criminal. I stared at my brother in disbelief. Even now, standing in front of the police station, he was still looking for an escape route that didn't involve consequences for him. Dylan, I said quietly, Emma is at the hospital right now, possibly having complications with your baby, while her father thinks I'm a stalker who threatened his daughter. How is that something we should just let the lawyers handle? Before Dylan could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Dave Martinez. Emma's okay, but the doctors want to keep her overnight for observation. Stress-induced complications. I hope you're satisfied with what your lies have done to my family. The text was clearly meant for Dylan, but sent to me. Emma's father was so angry he'd mixed up our numbers. Uncle Dave texted me by mistake, I said, showing them the message. Emma's in the hospital because of the stress from your lies, Dylan. She might lose the baby. Dylan's face went white. Oh God. Is the baby? I don't know, I said harshly. Because instead of being at the hospital where you should be, you're here trying to figure out how to avoid taking responsibility for any of this. Mom grabbed Dylan's arm. That's it. We're going inside, you're telling them the truth, and then we're going to the hospital to check on Emma and apologize to her family. But Mom, if I get arrested. Then you get arrested, she snapped. You think that's worse than what you've put Emma through? What you've put Marcus through? What you've put our entire family through? As we approached the station doors, I saw Bill Morrison waiting inside, looking harried and confused. Through the glass, I could also see Officer Stevens and another cop reviewing paperwork at a desk. Last chance, Dylan, Dad said grimly. You can walk in there and tell the truth, or we can let them arrest Marcus and you can live with that for the rest of your life. But I'm warning you, if you choose to stay silent, you're not my son anymore. Dylan's eyes filled with tears. Dad, please don't make me choose between my future and... You already made that choice when you decided to frame your brother, Dad interrupted. Now you get to live with it. We pushed through the doors into the fluorescent-lit lobby. Officer Stevens looked up and immediately focused on me. Marcus Richardson. That's me. We need to talk. As the officer approached, I felt Dylan tense beside me. This was it, the moment where everything would either come out or get buried deeper. And despite everything he'd done, despite all the lies and manipulation, I realized I still had no idea which way my brother would choose. The police station lobby felt like a tomb. Officer Stevens had his hand resting casually on his belt, but his eyes were focused on me like I was a flight risk. Before we go any further, Bill Morrison interrupted, stepping between us. I'm representing Mr. Richardson. I'd like a few minutes to consult with my client. Of course, Officer Stevens nodded. But I should let you know, we've got some pretty compelling evidence. Screenshots of threatening messages, testimony from the victim's father, and a pattern of contact that escalates over several weeks. My stomach dropped. They weren't just going on Dylan's word anymore, they had built an entire case file. Bill pulled me aside to a corner of the lobby while my parents waited with Dylan near the entrance. Marcus, I need you to tell me everything. And I mean everything. Because what they're describing sounds like felony stalking charges. I quickly explained the situation, Dylan's lies, Emma's pregnancy, the fake screenshots. Bill's expression grew more concerned with every detail. The problem, he said quietly, is that even if your brother recants now, the police are going to think your family is just closing ranks to protect you. They've already invested time and resources into this investigation. What does that mean for me? It means we need more than just Dylan's confession. We need proof that he fabricated evidence. Bill glanced over at Dylan, who was having an intense whispered conversation with our parents. Can you prove those screenshots were faked? Before I could answer, the station doors burst open. Uncle Dave stormed in, his face twisted with rage, followed by Emma, who was supposed to be in the hospital. Where is he? Uncle Dave bellowed, scanning the lobby until his eyes landed on me. Where's the piece of garbage who's been terrorizing my daughter? Officer Stevens immediately moved to intercept him. Sir, you need to calm down. Calm down. My daughter just had a panic attack so severe they thought she was going into premature labor. Uncle Dave's voice echoed off the walls. And it's all because this psychopath has been stalking her for weeks. Emma grabbed her father's arm. Daddy, stop. I told you in the car, Marcus isn't the one who... I don't want to hear any more of this nonsense about Dylan, Uncle Dave cut her off. I've known that boy since he was 10 years old. He's been nothing but respectful and helpful during this whole nightmare. I watched Emma's face crumple. Even after everything, even after she'd found the courage to tell the truth, her own father wasn't believing her. Mr. Martinez, Officer Stevens said professionally, we appreciate you coming in, but we have everything under control. Do you? Because I just spent 3 hours in the emergency room with my pregnant daughter while she kept rambling about fake text messages and family conspiracies. Uncle Dave pointed an accusing finger at me. He's manipulating her. Can't you see that? She's scared and pregnant and he's gotten into her head somehow. Dylan stepped forward, and I saw something calculating flash across his face. Mr. Martinez is right, Officer Stevens. I've been worried about Emma's mental state ever since Marcus started contacting her. The pregnancy hormones combined with the stress. I think she's genuinely confused about what's real and what isn't. I stared at my brother in horror. Even now, even after everything had come out, he was still trying to manipulate the situation. That's not true. Emma cried out, tears streaming down her face. I showed you all the real messages. I proved the screenshots were fake. Emma, honey, Dylan said in that perfectly concerned voice, you've been under enormous stress. It's understandable that you might be mixing up. Stop lying. Emma screamed, her voice echoing through the station lobby. But I could see it on Officer Stevens' face, on Uncle Dave's face, even on Bill Morrison's face. A pregnant, emotional teenager having a breakdown in a police station, making wild accusations that kept changing. And standing opposite her, my composed, articulate older brother expressing reasonable concern for her mental state. Dylan was winning. Again. And I was about to be arrested for crimes I didn't commit. I watched in horror as Dylan's manipulation took hold of the room. Uncle Dave was nodding along with Dylan's concerned brother act, and even Officer Stevens seemed to be buying it. Emma's been through a lot, Dylan continued smoothly. The pregnancy, the shame of having to admit what happened with Marcus, the pressure from both families. I think she's just trying to protect Marcus now by creating these elaborate stories about fake messages and secret relationships that never existed. They did exist. Emma sobbed, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. Look at the timestamps. Look at the phone numbers. Marcus never sent me those threatening messages. But Uncle Dave gently took the phone from her hands. Sweetheart, you're exhausted. You just got out of the hospital. Maybe we should go home, Anne. I'm not crazy. Emma's voice cracked with desperation. Dylan, tell them the truth. Tell them about all the times we met at the old barn behind the church. Tell them about the night you said you couldn't wait to marry me after the baby was born. Dylan shook his head sadly. Emma, I don't know what Marcus has convinced you happened, but I haven't been to that barn since we were kids. And I certainly never made any promises about marriage. The way he said it, so patient, so reasonable, made it sound like Emma was having delusions. I could see Uncle Dave's expression shifting from anger to concern for his daughter's mental state. This is insane, I burst out. Emma, show them the real text messages between you and Dylan. The ones you sent us at the coffee shop. Emma frantically scrolled through her phone, but her hands were shaking so badly she could barely navigate the screen. I sent them earlier, I know I did. Officer Stevens stepped forward. Ma'am, are you saying there are different messages than the screenshots your father showed us? Yes. The real ones. Between Dylan and me. Emma looked around desperately. I forwarded them to everyone, they have to be there. Mom pulled out her phone, frowning as she scrolled. Emma, honey, I don't see any forwarded messages from you. My phone shows the last text I got was from your father 3 hours ago. My blood turned to ice. I checked my phone too, nothing from Emma except our original conversation about meeting at the coffee shop. Dylan caught my eye and I saw something that chilled me to the bone. A tiny, almost imperceptible smirk. Somehow, he'd found a way to intercept or delete Emma's forwarded messages before they could be delivered. That's impossible, Emma whispered, staring at her phone in confusion. I sent them. I know I sent them. Emma, Dylan said gently, you've been under so much stress. Sometimes when we're overwhelmed, we think we've done things that we haven't actually done. Bill Morrison leaned over to me. Marcus, do you have any way to independently verify Emma's claims about Dylan? Because right now, this looks like a pregnant teenager having a breakdown and making accusations against the wrong person. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Jake. Marcus, thank God. Listen, you need to know something. After your parents left your dorm, I went through your room to make sure the cops didn't mess anything up. His voice was urgent. I found something weird. There was a phone hidden in your closet, not your phone, a different one. It looks like someone planted it there. My heart stopped. What kind of phone? Cheap burner phone. And Marcus, it's got text messages on it. Messages to Emma's number. Really nasty stuff. I looked across the lobby at Dylan, who was still playing the concerned brother role perfectly. He'd thought of everything. Not only had he created fake screenshots, he'd planted physical evidence in my dorm room. Jake, I said quietly, trying not to let anyone overhear, whatever you do, don't touch that phone. Take pictures of where you found it, but don't move it. Too late, man. I already picked it up. But Marcus, these messages, they're exactly what everyone's been describing. Threatening, manipulative, disgusting stuff. Dylan had set up the perfect frame job. Even if Emma's real messages had gone through, even if she could prove they'd been in contact, he made sure there was physical evidence that I was the one harassing her. Officer Stevens, I said, my voice shaking, I think you need to know that someone planted evidence in my dorm room. Dylan's head snapped toward me, his mask slipping for just a moment. What kind of evidence? Officer Stevens asked, suddenly very interested. A burner phone with text messages to Emma's number. Messages I never sent. Uncle Dave scoffed. Oh, now there's a conspiracy to frame him. How convenient. But Officer Stevens was looking at me differently now. Who told you about this phone? My roommate just found it hidden in my closet. And your roommate is willing to testify to this? Yes. Dylan stepped forward quickly. Officer Stevens, with all due respect, Marcus has had hours to prepare for this interview. It would be very easy for him and his roommate to coordinate a story. Then let's go check it out right now, Officer Stevens said firmly. All of us. Together. If there's evidence in that dorm room, I want to see exactly where it was found and how. Dylan's face went pale. Is that really necessary? I mean, we're all tired, and Emma should probably get back to the hospital. I'm not going anywhere until this is resolved, Emma said firmly, some strength returning to her voice. If there's proof that Marcus is being framed, I want to see it. As we all headed toward the door, I caught Dylan's expression in the reflection of the glass. For the first time all night, he looked genuinely terrified. His perfect plan was about to unravel. The caravan to my dorm felt like a funeral procession. 2 police cars, my parents' sedan, Uncle Dave's truck with Emma, and Bill Morrison following behind in his BMW. I rode with Officer Stevens, watching Dylan in the rearview mirror sitting rigidly in the second patrol car. Your brother seems nervous, Officer Stevens observed as we pulled into the campus parking lot. He should be, I muttered. The walk to my dorm was surreal. It was nearly midnight, but word had apparently spread about the police presence. Students were peering out of windows and clustering in doorways, phones out, recording everything. By morning, this would be all over social media. Jake was waiting in the lobby, looking exhausted and worried. Marcus, thank God you're okay. I've been guarding your room since I called you. Officer Stevens stepped forward. You're the roommate who found the phone. Yeah. Jake Peterson. He shook the officer's hand nervously. I've got photos of exactly where it was hidden before I touched it. As we crowded into the elevator, I noticed Dylan was sweating despite the cool night air. Emma stood as far from him as possible, her arms wrapped protectively around her stomach. You know what I don't understand, Emma said suddenly, breaking the tense silence, is how Marcus could have hidden a phone in his own room without his roommate knowing about it. Dylan cleared his throat. Well, roommates don't monitor each other's every move. But Jake's pre-med, Emma continued, her voice growing stronger. He studies constantly. He's always in that room. When would Marcus have had time to hide a phone without Jake noticing? Jake nodded vigorously. She's right. I'm there like 18 hours a day. And Marcus has been with me for most of the past month anyway, we've been studying together for midterms. I saw Uncle Dave's expression shift slightly. For the first time, he was looking at Dylan with something other than complete trust. The elevator dinged at my floor, and we filed out like the world's strangest parade. Jake led us to our door, pulling out his keys. Before we go in, Officer Stevens said, I want everyone to understand that this is now a crime scene. No one touches anything except me. He pulled on latex gloves and pushed open the door. My room looked exactly like I'd left it that morning, textbooks scattered on my desk, clothes draped over my chair, Jake's side meticulously organized. Where exactly did you find this phone? Officer Stevens asked Jake. Jake pointed to my closet. Back corner, behind the laundry basket. It was wrapped in a towel, like someone was trying to hide it. Officer Stevens carefully moved the laundry basket and towel aside. There it was, a cheap flip phone that definitely wasn't mine. Marcus, Mom said quietly, have you ever seen that phone before? Never in my life. Officer Stevens carefully picked up the phone with tweezers, examining it. It's still powered on. Recent activity. He looked around the room thoughtfully. Jake, you said you have photos of where this was located? Jake pulled out his phone, scrolling to the camera roll. Yeah, I took like 10 different angles before I moved anything. As Jake showed Officer Stevens the photos, I watched Dylan's face. He was staring at the phone like it was a snake about to strike. Here's what's interesting, Officer Stevens said slowly. This phone has been used recently, within the last few hours. But Marcus, you've been with your family and at the police station all evening. Emma stepped forward. So someone else used that phone tonight? While Marcus wasn't even here. The silence in the room was deafening. Uncle Dave was now openly staring at Dylan, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. Dylan, Uncle Dave said carefully, didn't you say you came straight from work to meet Marcus's parents? Dylan's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. Yes, that's right. But your work is downtown, isn't it? This campus is completely out of the way. Officer Stevens looked up sharply. Mr. Dylan Richardson, what time did you leave work today? The trap was closing, and this time, there was nowhere for my brother to run. Dylan's face went through a series of expressions, panic, calculation, and finally, defeat. I left work early today. Around 3. And you came straight to campus? Officer Stevens pressed. No, I had some errands to run first. Uncle Dave's voice was deadly quiet. What kind of errands, Dylan? The room felt like it was holding its breath. Emma had moved closer to her father, and I could see her hands shaking as the pieces fell into place. Dylan, Mom's voice cracked, please just tell us the truth. My brother looked around at all of us, his family staring at him with a mixture of horror and disappointment, Emma with tears streaming down her face, Uncle Dave with barely contained rage. There was nowhere left to hide. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he whispered, his shoulders sagging in defeat. Officer Stevens stepped closer, his hand moving instinctively toward his handcuffs. Are you confessing to planting evidence in your brother's dorm room? Dylan nodded slowly, unable to meet anyone's eyes. I thought if there was physical proof, no one would question the story anymore. Emma would stop trying to tell people the truth, and everything would just settle. The truth being that you're the father of Emma's baby? Officer Stevens confirmed. Yes. The word came out as barely a whisper. Uncle Dave made a sound like a wounded animal. You son of a bitch. You let me think Marcus was threatening my daughter while you were the one who got her pregnant and abandoned her. I didn't abandon her. I was trying to figure out how to handle everything without destroying both our families. By destroying your brother instead. Dad's voice was filled with disgust. Emma stepped forward, and when she spoke, her voice was stronger than it had been all night. Dylan, I waited for you. For months, I believed you when you said you'd fix this. I trusted you when you said we'd be together. And instead, you let everyone think I was a liar and Marcus was a monster. Dylan finally looked at her, and I saw tears in his eyes. Emma, I do love you. I was just scared. Scared enough to file false police reports. Officer Stevens interrupted. Scared enough to plant evidence and fabricate text messages. I panicked when Uncle Dave said he was calling the police. I thought if I could just control the narrative for a little while longer. Officer Stevens pulled out his handcuffs. Dylan Richardson, you're under arrest for filing a false police report, tampering with evidence, and harassment. You have the right to remain silent. As the Miranda rights echoed through my dorm room, I watched my brother's life implode. But instead of satisfaction, I felt hollow. Our family was broken, Emma had been traumatized, and a baby was going to grow up knowing their father had tried to abandon them before they were even born. Mom was crying silently, Dad looked like he'd aged 20 years, and Uncle Dave was holding Emma as she sobbed. I'm sorry, Dylan said as Officer Stevens led him toward the door. He looked back at me one last time. Marcus, I'm so sorry. But some things can't be fixed with apologies. As I watched my brother get taken away in handcuffs, I realized that even though the truth had finally come out, the damage he'd done to our family, to Emma, and to that innocent baby would last forever. The golden child had fallen, but the cost of his lies had been far too high for any of us to truly claim victory. At least now, finally, everyone knew who Dylan Richardson really was.